My son never knew about my $45,000 monthly salary. His wife once screamed, "We do not need this old beggar. Throw her out." I did not argue. I simply left. 1 week later, I took the house back for myself. I am glad you are here with me today. Please like this video, listen until the end, and tell me which city you are watching from. That helps me understand how far this story has reached. I never told my son, Daniel, about my real income. There was no reason to. For 30 years, I worked as a senior financial consultant, carefully and quietly building a stable and comfortable life. After my husband passed away 5 years ago, my work became my focus and my support system. Earning $45,000 a month was far more than I needed to live on, so I used my savings to help Daniel and his wife Jessica buy what they believed was their dream home. They assumed I only contributed a small amount from my pension. They never knew that I paid the entire down payment myself and kept the deed legally in my name. I chose to live simply in a small apartment across town and visited them every Sunday for dinner. Jessica was always distant. She was polite but cold and uninterested. I assumed it was just a difference in age or personality. She was 32, driven, and constantly focused on her phone during conversations. Daniel was my only child, and he seemed content. That was enough for me. The first sign of trouble appeared 3 months ago. I arrived for Sunday dinner carrying a homemade apple pie, Daniel's favorite dessert since he was a child. Jessica opened the door, and her face immediately showed annoyance. "Oh, you are early," she said. "I am right on time," I replied calmly. 6 o'clock, like always. She did not step aside. "Daniel is working late again. Honestly, I do not know why we keep doing these dinners when he is never here." My stomach tightened, but I forced a smile. "Maybe we can just talk, just the two of us." "I have a headache," she said sharply, finally moving aside and letting me enter the house, even though she had no idea it was legally mine. "Leave the pie in the kitchen." That evening, I noticed several things. New furniture, designer handbags on the counter, a brochure for a Caribbean cruise sitting on the coffee table. All of this while Daniel was working long hours at his accounting firm, constantly stressed about mortgage payments. I could not understand how they were affording any of it. The second warning came 2 weeks later. I stopped by without calling first, something I almost never did, to drop off documents Daniel needed. As I approached the door, I heard Jessica talking on the phone through the window. "No, Mom, we cannot help you right now. We are barely staying afloat. The house payment is crushing us. No, Daniel's mother does not help at all. She has nothing anyway. Nothing." I stood frozen on the porch, my hand halfway to the doorbell. That was the moment everything became clear. They believed I was poor. They thought I was surviving on Social Security. Jessica resented what she saw as my dependence, my weekly dinners, and my presence in their lives. I left without knocking. The following Sunday, I came for dinner as usual. This time, Daniel was home, but the atmosphere felt tense and uncomfortable. Jessica kept whispering to him in the kitchen. When we sat down, she barely touched her food. "Mom," Daniel began, avoiding eye contact, "Jessica and I have been talking." "We think," Jessica cut in sharply, "that you should consider other living arrangements." I set my fork down slowly. "Other arrangements?" "You are getting older," she said, leaning forward with fake concern. "Living alone is not safe. There are facilities where you would have people around, activities." You want me to go to a nursing home? I asked calmly. An assisted living community, she corrected. And honestly, Daniel and I need space. We are trying to start a family, and having you here every week depending on us is too much. Depending on you? I felt something heavy settle in my chest. Do not make this difficult, Jessica snapped. We cannot keep supporting you emotionally. You are becoming a burden. Daniel shifted in his chair but said nothing. I stood up, picked up my purse, and stayed steady. 30 years of high-level financial negotiations had taught me how to stay calm under pressure. I understand, I said quietly. That was when Jessica crossed the final line. She stood up, her face filled with contempt. Good, because we do not need some old broke woman hanging around acting like a martyr. Daniel, tell her, we do not need this old beggar in our house. Throw her out. The room went silent. Daniel's face turned pale. Jessica, that is, he started, then stopped. I looked at my son. He stared at the floor. I opened the door and walked out without another word. I did not cry during the drive home. I calculated. They wanted me gone. They were about to learn what my presence had truly meant all along. The drive took 20 minutes, but my thoughts moved faster. I questioned everything about my relationship with Daniel. When did I lose him, or had I ever truly had him? I sat in my parked car in the dark, gripping the steering wheel. A neighbor's cat walked past the windshield. Life continued as if nothing had happened, but everything had changed. This old beggar. The words echoed in my mind, along with Daniel's silence. That hurt the most. I went inside, made tea I did not drink, and opened my laptop. It was time to face the numbers. The house at 2247 Maple Street. Market value, $680,000. Deed holder, Margaret Ann Foster. Down payment, $200,000 from my savings. Monthly mortgage, $3,100. Auto paid from my account, masked as payments from D. Foster's checking. Daniel thought he was paying the bank. He was paying me. Total invested over 3 years, $267,200. They were living in my house, calling me a beggar. The fear was not about money. I could afford the loss. The fear was losing my son forever. At 3 a.m, I stood staring at my late husband Robert's photo. What would you do? I whispered. Love them, he used to say, but never let them disrespect you. By dawn, I had my answer. I would give Daniel one chance. If he called, apologized, and defended me, we could rebuild. My phone stayed silent all Monday. On Tuesday, I took a personal week. Then I called my lawyer, Thomas Chen. Margaret, he said, what can I do for you? I need the deed for 2247 Maple Street, I told him. I need to know my options. By Wednesday at 10 a.m., still no call from Daniel. I wore my navy suit, the one I reserved for serious matters, and drove downtown. Thomas listened carefully as I explained everything. Finally, he asked, What outcome do you want? I want my son to stand up for himself, I said. And I want his wife to understand that actions have consequences. And if he does not? He asked. Then I reclaim what is mine. He nodded slowly and reached for a fresh legal pad. All right, here is what I recommend, Tom said calmly. First, we document everything. For the next 2 hours, we built a plan, not driven by anger. I could not allow anger to interfere. This was about necessity, logic, and control. I needed to think clearly and act carefully. As I walked out of Tom's office, my phone vibrated in my hand. For a moment, I thought it was Daniel. It was not. It was Jessica. The message read, "Daniel says you are upset. You need to apologize for storming out. We are willing to forgive you this time, but do not be dramatic again. Family dinner is Sunday at 6 if you want to make things right." I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I forwarded the message to Tom with one sentence. "Proceed with documentation. Full speed ahead." Thursday morning, I did something I had never done before. At 7 a.m., I drove past their house, my house, and parked 3 homes down where I could observe without drawing attention. At 7:15, Daniel left for work. His shoulders were slumped. His tie was crooked. He looked exhausted. Good. He should have been. At 9:30, Jessica came outside wearing expensive athletic clothing that Daniel's salary could not reasonably support. She got into a white BMW that was clearly recent and drove away. I followed from a safe distance. She parked at an upscale shopping center. For the next 3 hours, I watched from a coffee shop across the street as she met 2 friends for brunch. She laughed, showed off her nails, posed for photos, and paid with a credit card. She looked relaxed and proud, like someone with no financial concerns at all. This was the same woman claiming they were barely surviving mortgage payments. I took photos, noted timestamps, and documented everything. Tom had been clear. To protect myself legally, I needed proof that they were financially stable without my assistance. This would prevent any claim that I was placing them in hardship. On Friday, Tom called. "I had my investigator pull some records. Margaret, you need to come see this." An hour later, I was in his office. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were bank statements and publicly available financial data from a professional database he used for due diligence. Daniel and Jessica's joint account showed regular deposits from Daniel's salary. But other transactions made my stomach turn. Cash withdrawals, $3,000, $5,000, $2,500. Repeated patterns over the last year, always a few days before the mortgage payment was supposedly due. "They are withdrawing cash," Tom said quietly, "right before sending what they believe is the mortgage payment to your account. Then the money sits there while your auto pay covers the actual bank payment." "They are skimming," I said slowly. "Yes," he replied. "They think they are paying $3,100 a month. In reality, they are sending you closer to $2,000, sometimes less. The rest is being spent elsewhere, based on the credit card statements." I thought of the designer bags, the cruise brochures, the BMW. "They are stealing from themselves," I said, "because they do not realize they are paying me, not the bank." Tom nodded. "And there is more. Jessica has a personal savings account." He handed me another page. $47,000, separate from Daniel. Nearly $50,000 while claiming they were broke. I looked up at him. "If I take the house back, can they sue me for what they paid?" "No," he said firmly. "You never signed a promissory note. Their payments are legally considered gifts or rent at best." Then he added, "There is something else you need to do." He placed the deed in front of me. "You need to record an update at the county office. Make it public. Right now, you are listed as the owner, but there has been no recent activity. An updated filing creates a timestamp and protects you. My phone rang. Daniel. I let it go to voicemail. You do not have to answer, Tom said. I know, I replied, then played the message on speaker. Daniel sounded strained. Mom, Jessica told me she texted you. I know Sunday was tense, but we are under a lot of stress. The house, the payments, everything. Maybe we need some space. Can you stop coming by for a while? Not an apology, not a defense of me, just a request for me to disappear. Tom looked at me carefully. You have your answer. Yes, I said. File the deed update, today. That afternoon, we went to the county recorder's office. The clerk reviewed the paperwork. Confirming property ownership, she said. 2247 Maple Street, Margaret Ann Foster, sole owner. Purchased April 2022. This will be updated by Monday. I signed. My signature felt heavier than usual. As we walked out, Tom said, Once this is live, anyone checking the property records will see it. They will not check, I said. They think it is theirs. I was wrong. Saturday evening, my phone exploded. Message after message. Mom, what is going on? Jessica got a notification from a property app. It says your name is on our house deed. This has to be a mistake. You cannot do this. We have rights. 23 messages in 10 minutes. I turned off my phone, poured a glass of wine, and sat alone in my apartment. There was no going back now, and I did not want to. Sunday morning, I turned my phone back on. 67 messages, 14 missed calls. I called Tom first. They know. He sighed. Jessica left 3 voicemails at my office. Very colorful language. Are you ready? This will get worse before it gets better. I am ready. What is next? Formal notice. 30 days to vacate or negotiate a lease. It is more than required, but it shows good faith. Send it. At noon, someone pounded on my apartment door. Not knocked, pounded. I checked the peephole. Daniel and Jessica, both furious. I opened the door but kept the chain on. You need to calm down before we talk. Calm down, Jessica screamed. You are stealing our house. Lower your voice, I said, or I am closing the door. Daniel looked broken. That almost stopped me. Almost. Mom, he said softly, please explain. The records say you own our house. There is no mistake, I replied. I do own it. I always have. I bought it for you 3 years ago. Daniel went pale. Jessica stared, then narrowed her eyes. You are lying. You have been paying me, I said, not the bank. That is impossible, Daniel whispered. You do not earn enough, I said. I earn $45,000 a month. I have for years. I am a senior financial consultant. Jessica exploded. You lied to us. I helped you, I said coldly. And last Sunday you called me an old beggar and told my son to throw me out. I was angry, she snapped. Daniel, say something. But Daniel only stared at me. Mom, he whispered, why did you never tell me? I met his eyes. Would it have changed anything? Silence. Jessica grabbed Daniel's arm tightly. She is trying to manipulate you, she said loudly. This is elder abuse. We can sue. We have rights. We have been paying for that house with my money. I corrected her immediately. Money I gave you, and I have documentation for every transaction. Kam Chen is my attorney. You will be receiving formal notice to vacate or negotiate lease terms within 30 days. Lease terms? Jessica's voice rose to a sharp scream. That is our house. We put our lives into it. We have equity. You have nothing. Check the deed, I replied calmly. Check the mortgage. My name, my money, my house. Daniel finally spoke, his voice panicked and raw. Mom, we cannot afford rent anywhere else, not in this market. Where are we supposed to go? You have Jessica's $47,000 in savings, I said evenly. That should cover first month, last month, and a deposit somewhere reasonable. Jessica froze completely. How do you know about that? I am a financial consultant, Jessica, I answered. Due diligence is my profession. You investigated us, Daniel said, looking ill. I protected myself. At that moment, Tom appeared behind them on the stairs. I had not noticed him approach, but there he was, briefcase in hand, composed and professional. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, he said politely, I have your formal notice here. Would you like to discuss this calmly, or would you prefer communication through legal counsel? Jessica lunged toward me, but Daniel stopped her. You cannot do this, she shouted. I will call the police. I will call social services. We will have you declared incompetent. Tom did not change his expression. Mrs. Foster, if you continue threatening my client, I will add harassment to the record. Miss Foster has broken no laws. She is reclaiming her own property. Daniel, Jessica cried, tears streaming down her face. Do something! She is destroying us! Our home! Our future! The baby! What baby? I asked quietly. Jessica went silent. Daniel's face drained of color. Jess, you said you were not. The truth was collapsing in real time. Tom handed Daniel the envelope. 30 days, Mr. Foster. My contact information is enclosed. I strongly advise consulting your own attorney. They left. Jessica screamed threats the entire way down the stairs. Daniel said nothing, gripping the envelope with shaking hands. I closed the door and leaned against it. Tom placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Are you all right? No, I said honestly, but I will be. Take time, he advised. Do not answer calls. Let them process. Any further contact should go through me. He was right. I booked a spa resort 2 hours north, turned off my phone, and disappeared for 4 days. I swam, read, rested, and did not think about my son or his wife. I needed to remember who I was before I was reduced to someone disposable. I was Margaret Foster. I built a career. I survived widowhood. I raised a child alone. I was not weak. Friday afternoon, I returned home steady and clear-headed. Waiting for me was an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a handwritten letter from Daniel. No Jessica, just him. Mom, please, let us talk. Just you and me. No lawyers, no Jessica. I am begging you. Riverside Cafe, the one where we used to get ice cream when I was a kid. Saturday, 2 p.m. I need to understand. I read it 3 times, searching for manipulation. It sounded like my son. Tom's warning echoed in my head, but this was still my child. Saturday, I arrived at 1:55. Daniel was already there, sitting alone, exhausted and unshaven. No Jessica. I sat across from him. You have 5 minutes. She does not know I am here, he said quickly. I told her I was meeting a college friend. So you are lying to her now, I said. He flinched. Mom, I do not know what to believe anymore. About you, about Jessica, about anything. The truth is simple, I said. I bought you a house. Your wife called me a beggar. You said nothing. I am taking back what is mine. It is not that simple, he said, voice breaking. I was in shock. I should have defended you, I know that. But Jessica is under pressure. Her mother is sick. Her job is awful. We are trying for a baby. Are you? I asked. Because she invented a baby on my doorstep to manipulate you. Daniel flushed. She was emotional. Daniel, taking the house back will not destroy you, I said. Your refusal to stand up already has. He leaned forward desperately. What do you want from me? Tell me. I want you to acknowledge that what she said was unforgivable. I want you to stand up and act like the man you told me you were. I am here, he said weakly. In secret, I replied. Lying to your wife to meet your mother? That is not strength. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. Please, he said, do not do this. I looked at him carefully. When your father died, you told me you would protect me. Where was that man last Sunday? Tears fell freely now. I am sorry. Sorry is not enough, I said. I stood up. Please do not leave, he begged. The notice stands, I said calmly. 30 days. After that, we will see, Daniel said quietly. We will lose everything. No, I corrected him gently. You will lose a house you never truly owned. And perhaps you will gain something more important, like self-respect. I stood up and walked out of the cafe, leaving my son crying alone in the corner booth. It was the most difficult thing I had ever done. I made it to my car before my own tears finally came. That evening, I did something I should have done weeks earlier. I called my college roommate, Patricia. She lived 2 states away, but we had stayed close friends for decades. Maggie, sweetheart, you sound awful, she said immediately. What is wrong? I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, offering quiet words of comfort, and by the end, open outrage. That woman called you what? Patricia snapped. And Daniel just stood there like a statue? Oh, honey, I am so sorry. But I need to tell you something. I am proud of you. That caught me off guard. Proud? Yes, she said firmly. You stood up for yourself. So many women our age let their children walk all over them because they are afraid of losing them. But Maggie, you cannot lose what you never truly had. Her words settled something deep inside me. You need support, Patricia continued, real support, not just lawyers, although thank God for Tom. You need friends who remind you that expecting basic human decency does not make you difficult. I feel so alone, I admitted. You are not, she said. I am coming to visit next weekend. We will drink wine and remind ourselves that we are strong women who do not tolerate disrespect. How does that sound? I smiled for the first time in days. That sounds perfect. After we hung up, I felt calmer and more grounded. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Is this Margaret Foster? A young woman asked. Yes. My name is Rachel Kim. I am with County Mediation Services. Your son, Daniel Foster, has requested family mediation regarding a property dispute. Would you be willing to participate? I paused. Mediation meant a neutral third party. It might help, or it might expose more truth. "I will need to speak with my attorney first," I said. "Of course," she replied. "I will email the details. Mediation is voluntary, but it often helps families resolve issues without court involvement." After the call, something shifted inside me. There might still be a path forward, or this might be another attempt to control the narrative. Either way, I was not retreating. The mediation email arrived Tuesday morning, along with a message from Daniel. "Please, Mom, let us try this, for us." I met Tom for lunch and discussed it with him. He was cautious. "Mediation only works if everyone comes in good faith," he said. "Do you trust Jessica to do that?" "No," I said. "But if she does not, it will be documented by a neutral third party." Tom smiled slightly. "All right, I will be there with you." The mediation took place Friday afternoon in a bland office building downtown. Rachel Kim met us in the lobby. She was in her 30s, calm and professional. "Miss Foster, thank you for coming. Mr. Chen, good to meet you. The other party is already inside." "Both of them?" I asked. "Yes, Daniel and Jessica Foster." Tom and I exchanged a glance. The conference room was deliberately neutral. Beige walls, long table, tissues placed in the center. Daniel sat on one side, nervous and tense. Jessica sat beside him, perfectly styled, wearing pearls and a soft pink blouse. She looked prepared, composed, and calculated. "Margaret," Rachel began warmly, "today is about open communication and finding a resolution. Everything said here is confidential except what my client and I choose to use later," Tom said calmly. Rachel nodded. "Within legal limits. Daniel, you requested mediation. Please begin." Daniel cleared his throat. "Mom, I want to say, with a witness present, that I am sorry. I should have defended you. What happened was wrong." It sounded practiced, but the emotion was real. Jessica squeezed his hand. "I am sorry too, Margaret," she said softly. "I was overwhelmed and took it out on you. It was inappropriate." I watched her closely. The gentle voice, the lowered eyes. It was a performance. "Thank you for the apologies," I said neutrally. Rachel smiled. "Excellent. Now, regarding the property at 2247 Maple Street, I have a proposal," Jessica interrupted. "If Margaret is truly the owner, we can formalize what was happening. We continue making real mortgage payments and gradually buy the house. When we reach 70% of the value, the deed transfers." It sounded reasonable. That was the danger. Tom leaned forward. "You are asking my client to transfer a $680,000 property for $476,000 with no down payment, no credit checks, and no lender protections." Jessica smiled sweetly. "It is her son's family home. Family should matter more than money." "Family works both ways," I said quietly. "Exactly," Jessica said quickly, "which is why evicting us, especially with a baby coming, would be cruel." I looked at Daniel. "You are expecting a baby?" There was a pause. "We are trying," Jessica said. "The stress is not helping." Rachel intervened. "Perhaps a lease arrangement?" "At what rent?" Tom asked. "Market rate would be approximately $4,200 a month," he continued. Jessica's expression cracked for a moment. "That is impossible." "You have $47,000 in savings," I said calmly. The room fell silent. "That is private," Jessica snapped. "You had no right." I had every right to verify financial claims. Jessica stood up, furious. You are a vindictive old woman who cannot accept that your son chose a wife. Sit down, Rachel said firmly. No, Jessica shouted. She bought the house to control him. I bought it so my son would have a home, I said coldly. A home he could not afford. I asked for respect. You could not give that. Jessica exploded. You are pathetic. You tried to buy love because you have nothing else. Daniel looked horrified. Jess, stop. No, she continued. Daniel does not need you anymore. He has me. I stood, steady. Tom, we are finished. Agreed, he said. Running away again? Jessica yelled. I turned at the door. I gave you a house, I said evenly. You gave me contempt. The eviction notice stands. You have 3 weeks left. We will sue, Jessica snapped. We have rights. No, Tom said calmly. You do not. You are welcome to pursue legal action if you choose, but I strongly recommend finding alternative housing instead. We left. Behind us, Jessica was screaming, and Rachel was trying unsuccessfully to calm her down. Inside the elevator, my hands started shaking. Tom placed a steady hand on my shoulder. Breathe, Margaret, he said quietly. Just breathe. She finally showed her true self, I whispered. She did, Tom agreed, and everything is documented. Rachel will file a report. That works in your favor. But my thoughts were not on the legal case. They were on my son, still sitting in that conference room beside a woman who had just revealed herself completely. I wondered if he finally saw the truth, or if he was already too deep to step away. The shaking faded and turned into resolve. 3 weeks. They had 3 weeks to figure out their lives. And if Daniel chose Jessica after everything that had happened, then I would know exactly where I stood. The final confrontation came on day 29. Tom had prepared all the paperwork. The eviction would be enforceable the next day. I had even found them a listing, a clean 2-bedroom condominium well within their actual budget, and emailed it to Daniel. There was no response. I spent the day at the office catching up on client work I had neglected, staying focused, staying productive. At 6 p.m., my assistant buzzed my office. Miss Foster, there are 2 people here to see you. They do not have an appointment. I knew who it was before she said their names. Send them in. Daniel and Jessica entered my office. This was not the Jessica from mediation. No pearls, no soft blouse. She wore jeans and a hoodie. Her hair was pulled back. Her face was swollen from crying, real crying. Daniel looked worse, hollow-eyed, exhausted. Mom, he said softly, please, we need to talk. I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. They sat. My office had always been a place of authority. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a mahogany desk, professional certifications framed on the wall. This was where I negotiated major financial deals. This was where I was in control. You have 15 minutes, I said calmly. I have dinner plans. I did not, but they did not need to know that. Jessica spoke first, and for the first time, her voice sounded genuine. Margaret, I found something you need to see. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and slid it across my desk. It was a bank statement, a joint account. One transaction was highlighted. Transfer to M. Foster Trust, $3,100, dated 3 years ago and repeated every single month. My blood went cold. "I do not understand," I said slowly. "Daniel has been paying the mortgage," Jessica said. "The real mortgage. I found the account while packing. He has a separate account I did not know about." I looked at Daniel. He was staring at his hands. "I set it up right after we moved in," he said quietly. "You told me you would help with the down payment. I thought you meant a few thousand. When I saw you paid $200,000, I could not accept that." "So you have been paying me back," I said. "I tried to," he said. "I contacted the bank. They told me you were the mortgage holder and gave me an account number. I have been sending $3,100 every month." Jessica turned toward me. "He has been working 16-hour days for 3 years. I thought he was avoiding me, avoiding our marriage. I blamed you for pushing us into a house we could not afford." My thoughts were racing. "But the automatic payments from my account," I said. "I never saw these deposits." "I just sent the money to an account labeled M. Foster Trust," Daniel said. "I thought it was going directly to the mortgage. I did not know you were paying it separately." "You have paid me $37,000 a year for 3 years," I said quietly. "Yes," Daniel replied. "Where did you think that money was going?" "You were trying to repay the down payment," I realized. "Of course," he said. "You gave us $200,000. I could not just take that." The missing cash withdrawals suddenly made sense. "My consulting clients pay in cash," Daniel explained. "I deposited it and transferred the funds. Jessica did not know about the account, so I had to route it through our joint checking." Jessica let out a sound that was half sob, half laugh. "We have been fighting about money for 3 years," she said. "I thought we were broke. He would not explain why. I thought he might be gambling or cheating." "I was trying to keep my dignity," Daniel said, his voice breaking. "I could not stand the idea of being a charity case. So I worked myself sick trying to repay Mom, and I destroyed my marriage in the process." "And I," Jessica said softly, "became cruel. I took my anger out on the one person who actually helped us because I did not know the truth." The silence in the office was heavy. I pulled up my banking records on my computer. There it was, M. Foster Trust, an account I had created years earlier for estate planning and forgotten. Deposits of $3,100 for 36 months, $111,600. My son had paid back more than half the down payment without my knowledge. "Why did you not tell me?" I asked quietly. "Because you would have told me to stop," Daniel said. "And I needed to do this for myself." Jessica wiped her face. "I said unforgivable things to you," she said. "I thought you were taking advantage of Daniel while he worked himself to exhaustion. I was wrong. I did not know." "That explains it," I said firmly. "It does not excuse it." "I know," she said, "but I am truly sorry." I looked at my son carefully. The exhaustion, the weight he carried. "You worked yourself into the ground to repay a gift," I said. "It never felt like a gift," he replied. "It felt like a debt." "You owed me nothing except respect," I said. "That is all I ever wanted." He nodded. "I should have defended you that night, no matter what. That failure was mine." Finally, he understood. "The eviction notice," Jessica began. "Stands," I said. "For now. You are moving out tomorrow." They slumped. But, I continued, you will move into the condominium I found. I will rent it to you for $2,000 a month. Lease in your names until you stabilize. Daniel looked up sharply. And Daniel, I said, you are quitting those extra consulting jobs. You are going to sleep. You are going to repair your marriage. Yes, he said. And Jessica, I said, holding her gaze, you and I will have dinner once a month, just us. We are going to learn to speak to each other with respect. She swallowed. Yes. The house on Maple Street is being sold, I continued. The market is strong. Half the proceeds will go into a trust for your future children. The other half is mine. Tom's voice came from the doorway. That is more than fair. I called him when you arrived, I admitted. I wanted a witness. Daniel stepped forward and did something he had not done since childhood. He hugged me. I am so sorry, Mom, for everything. I hugged him back, and the tears finally came. I know, sweetheart, I said softly. I know. Jessica stood as well, hesitating for a moment. Margaret, I know I do not deserve it, but may I? She asked quietly. I opened my other arm. The three of us stood together in my office, crying, while Tom discreetly took notes nearby. The conflict was finished. The struggle was resolved. More importantly, my family had begun to heal. The house at 2247 Maple Street sold in 3 days for $695,000, which was $15,000 over the asking price. I made sure Daniel and Jessica were present when we signed the closing documents. Not to shame them, but so they could witness that this chapter was truly complete. The buyers were a young family with 2 children and a golden retriever. They reminded me of Robert and me 30 years earlier, hopeful and excited about the future. They will be happy here, Daniel said as we watched the final walkthrough. It is a good house, I agreed, and now it will truly be theirs. Jessica squeezed my hand. Over the past few weeks, we had shared 3 dinners together. At first, they were uncomfortable, but slowly we were building something honest. Not friendship exactly, but mutual respect and understanding. I still cannot believe I said those things, she admitted quietly. You believed a story that made sense based on what you thought you knew, I replied. People do that. What matters is what you do once you learn the truth. I am trying to do better, she said. I can see that. The sale proceeds were wired to my account the following Monday, $695,000. After closing costs and paying off the remaining mortgage, the final amount was $615,000. I called my financial advisor and set up 2 trusts. The first was $300,000 for Daniel and Jessica's future children, education, weddings, first homes. They would never struggle the way their parents had. The second trust was $150,000 divided among 3 charities Robert and I had supported for years: literacy programs, food banks, and women's shelters. The remaining $165,000 was mine. Freedom money, travel money, money to spoil future grandchildren. There was one final matter to address. The condominium I had rented to Daniel and Jessica belonged to a woman relocating to Florida. She asked if I wanted to buy it. After negotiations, we agreed on $385,000. I purchased it. Then I invited Daniel and Jessica to my apartment. They arrived nervous, likely expecting more paperwork or conditions. Instead, I handed them a document. What is this? Daniel asked. A deed, I said, to the condo, in both of your names. Jessica's hands trembled. Margaret, we cannot accept this. You can and you will, I said, but there are conditions. Anything, Daniel said immediately. I presented a contract Tom and I had prepared. First, you will continue paying $2,000 a month, but that money goes into a savings account in your names. When you reach $50,000, it is yours. Emergency funds, a future home, whatever you need. They nodded. Second, Daniel, you will attend therapy weekly to address your need to destroy yourself to prove your worth. This is non-negotiable. I already started, he said quietly. 3 sessions in. Good. Third, Jessica, you will return to school. You mentioned a master's degree in marketing. There is a part-time program at the State University. I will cover tuition. Jessica was openly crying. Why would you do this after everything I said? Because you are my daughter-in-law, I said. Because you are trying. Because I can afford it, and I choose to invest in my family. Then I looked at her directly. If you ever disrespect me like that again, we are finished. No second chances. Clear, she said immediately. Never again. Fourth, Sunday dinners twice a month. You host one, I host one. We rebuild this family properly. And 5, Daniel asked. You will name your first child after Robert, boy or girl. Daniel laughed through tears. Deal, all of it. You do not deserve this, I said honestly, but you are trying to make things right. That matters. I handed them the keys. The condo is paid in full, no mortgage, only property taxes and HOA fees. Now you can rest and build the life you want. Jessica hugged me tightly. Thank you. I will spend my life earning this. Just be a good wife and a good mother, I replied. That is enough. After they left, I stood alone in my apartment. The house was sold, the money allocated, the conflict resolved. I had won. Not through destruction, not through resentment, but through accountability, boundaries, and grace. That is real strength. I raised a glass of wine to Robert's photo. We did well, I whispered. Our son will be okay. And for the first time in months, I truly believed it. 6 months later, my life was transformed. I reduced my consulting hours. I traveled to Italy for 3 weeks, the trip Robert and I never took. I joined book clubs, hiking groups, and taught financial literacy to women who needed it. Sunday dinners became genuine family time. Jessica thrived in graduate school. Daniel quit his second job, recovered his health, and learned that accepting help did not make him weak. 3 months after moving into the condo, Jessica became pregnant. A boy. They asked me to be in the delivery room. A package arrived one evening. Inside was a onesie that read, Grandma's Little Robert. Daniel's note said, Robert Daniel Foster, due in 8 weeks. I cried tears of joy. I did not just get my family back. I got a healthier, stronger, honest family. And that was the greatest victory of all. So what did I learn? Your worth is defined by how you allow yourself to be treated. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are necessary. Grace and accountability can exist together. And family is built on respect and effort, not obligation. What would you have done? Leave a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for listening, and remember, you deserve respect. Always.